Have you ever asked yourself so many questions, in regard to the community you live in regard to the church that you goes into? What have you realized? Are there some similarities that, underpin the thinking? I think we need to review some reshaping, to reshape the thinking of the future community. What would the community would like to be? What sort of community do you really ideally want? So these are the few questions that I always ask myself, and that is in regard to, the good example on what is happening with the Episcopal Church of South Sudan today. The thinking I'm talking about is that we tend to take things simply based on the tribal lines, based on the clan lines and all that. But is that really an ideology that we need to take into the modern world? Is that the new way that we can really interact with the people that doesn't belong to such kind of communities? How do we really create an inclusive community? So this is the thinking that I'm talking about. This is the thinking that I need so that the future conflict can be mitigated through such kind of cohesive community. So the thinking I'm talking about is to ask yourself, do we need a new tribe? The new tribe I'm talking about is your workplace. It's a new tribe. Your neighborhood is a new tribe. Your school, your university, your high school, your college is a new tribe. A church that doesn't belong to one speaking group is your tribe. And this is what I'm referring to. Don't we need, to leave the outdated alliance to the old school and create a new chapter of the new tribe? So this is a discussion I'm talking about today. I think it is a time for a new tribe. When to leave our outdated alliance for a truly supportive community is what I'm talking about. Do you feel as if you have outgrown your cycle of friends? Perhaps you do not feel safe or understood any longer. There may be fewer and fewer things you can share with people in your habitual cycles, and they leave you feeling lonely or isolated. If so, you are not alone. Welcome to the world of the core dynamics of the continuous growth. To reshape the thinkings of the continuous growth and to reshape the thinking of the new tribal norms, as we continue to evolve, many of us, struggle with the sense of not quite fitting in with our traditional community or the tribes. We may have expanded or changed beyond the borders of the tribal norms and no longer find the same sense of belonging there. Other members, may have tightened, the tribal rules to foster a sense of security. This is usually happen with the older generation who were born during that tribe, when it comes to, like, for example, to the Western countries, they still tighten to their rules. But as a result, we feel a sense of disconnections and or alienations. But in reality, each of us, belong to many tribes simultaneously. There is your original tribe, that original tribe is exactly your family where you were born into. And then there are all the communities of choice you have joined, There's a social group, there is neighborhoods, there is schools, there is work tribe, and all that. These are all tribes, and they are all your inner social cycles. Your faith organizations, community as well is your tribes. Your neighborhoods and many more are all your tribes. These are all your new tribes at all. And these communities they're not static as well. They are in a continuous flux because they consist of individuals who are in a continuous state of growth and change. When there is a lot of change happening in a community, in either the individuals or the community itself, a sense of dissonance results always occur. How do we deal with all this? First, it is important to recognize that tribal allegiances, were historical poets for survivals back in the days and back in our fathers' generations. They were adapted over the course of the centuries, to ensure the safety and the survival of the group that speak the same language and all that. Survival required that, individuals be sacrificed for the threat of obscurity. And that's a reality. But in modern society today, the table are flipped, on the other side. Whether we enjoy it or not, change is essential for survival in every level or every stage of human beings. The phase of change is driven by technological advance, and that is what we're seeing now in the Western world, and that is why a country like South Sudan still lag behind a bit. This happened with an increasing rapidity. Sociologists, estimate that more changes has taken place in society over the course of, the first over 100 years than in the totality of the previous, over 7,000 years. Individual adaptations now is a requirement for survivals. And the phase of individual change does not always match the phase at which our various tribal communities, evolve. The resulting is dissonance and can cause intense frictions and pain. This is exactly what is happening in our communities and also in the Episcopal Church in South Sudan at the moment, Dissonance also results from the confusion between, the concept of the connections and the community itself. We tend to equate one with the other, when they really relates to the different qualities. But the connection itself relates to connectivity. The objective physical technology or the media that enable us to build one community, but which does not, represent the quality of that community. You could see a lot of people right now, building a lot of media houses, on the social media and all that. But does that really present the reality of their community? Hell no, it is not. Community simply offers the opportunity to connect with others, through the internet sometimes, through the phone connections, through another social networking and all that. Community is a result of the building relationship through, a meaningful interactions over time. And that's what should be always happening, in most cases and in a lot of space where the pages of the Facebook have been created for the community beings, There is no shortcuts. It is a process that we develop when the bonds of trust and intimacy are nurtured and honored. And here lies a caveat as well. When we confuse connectivity with the community, we depersonalize, the sacred nature of the true community and start relating people as objects. Instead of developing intimacy over time, we collect friends, a huge bunch of friends on the social network sites, and try to buy people user allegiance. Yet friendship or friending is simply an act of connecting. It does not create intimacy. That's what people need to understand really. But in fact, the social experiments indicate that technologically, dominated connectivity results, in an alienations or the social collapse over time. In a groundbreaking theory, the social experiments conducted by George Harris, is one of the founders of the social networking on the internet. He found that, the more his private lives were exposed by 24/7 technological advance, the more their sense of intimacy and relationship deteriorated until the community collapsed and the violence and the self-destructive behavior emerge. Is that not what is happening now in Jonglei states, especially in Bor? Is that not what is happening now in diaspora communities on the social media? Just think about it. But I'm just insisting, it is time to revisit our concept of the community so we can create tribes that offer, a true sense of intimacy and belonging. A community that creates cohesive, But in Harry's book, in his book of 1987, there is a different drum community, making peace. Psychology's M.S. Scott Spex, describe several core characteristics of the community. Beyond, the obvious components of inclusivity, commitments, and participatory, consensus. Mr. Fex also pointed out the quality of, embracing diversity through realism. But when each member contribute their unique viewpoint from the place of humility or a goodwill, the community benefits from the broader perspective, into which a better grasp, of the full context of the situations is observed. That is the thinking I'm talking about. People should look into it. But in other words, the mutual tolerance help members to embrace one another. But different opinions, the different viewpoints are integral parts of the whole life for the whole community, but not as a tribals, But instead of imposing forced compliance, to groupthings or cohesions, in an environment like this, members experience and express compassion and respect for one another. They should allow others, to share their vulnerability, to learn and grow, and to express who they truly are. And this is part of the community inclusions. When conflict arises like what is happening now, they learn to resolve it with wisdom and grace. Members also listen and respect each other's, his gift, and the chain of responsibility, and accept each other and their limitations, celebrate their differences, and commit to find a tangible solution to the community problems or individual problems. Like I see families fightings, individual fightings, can they not find, a peace among themselves? The true spirit of the community is the spirit of peace, love, wisdom, and the power. The source of these spirits, may be seen as an outgrown of the collective self or as the manifestations of the higher will. This could even sound as a description of the community in a spiritual term. I'm not a spiritual person, but I believe people could turn it to be a spiritual term, But it could be yes, indeed, because the spirit is the common denominator here among all of us, regardless of how we separate, with spirit or separate or what you worship, We feel from others as well. But as human beings, we often experience a socio-economic sense of separation from others because of different opinions, beliefs, expectations, language, culture, and interests, Seeing all of us, express this in a way which is very unique, quite different from anyone else, But we have to continue, to differentiate, or differentiate in this ongoing process, which is change and growth. We continue to evolve or devolve, in a response to life. The communities that felt like a good fit, last year may longer work today. The places where we felt embraced now may, sophisticate us. Over, of course, a lifetime, we can expect to outgrow and change allegiances, to many of the tribal communities we once belonged to. But yet, when we transcend, in the layer of the physical's appearance, mental beliefs, and socioeconomic conditions, we find the presence of the common denominator, which is a spirit, in everyone around us. But perhaps it is time to expand our tribal definitions, or the community definition, or the clan definitions that embrace a spiritual community that include all of mankind as children of God. People might be wondering, just hearing such kind of words out of my mouth, But all these things, they need to be addressed. With the presence of God, the Creator itself, as a look into an eye of the homeless and all that, we can look, in the past issues that divide us to find, omnipresence, divinity in others. We can even uncover the foundation of the true community, the spiritual community that transcends, all socioeconomic borders, beliefs, and the backgrounds. It is inclusive because it operates on voluntarily and self-responsibility and mutual compassion. These are just some thought of the important community. And the doors are always open to everyone. Building this type of community takes time. Brothers and sisters, it takes times. It takes time. Time to listen, time to hear, time to respond, and time to participate. Take a few moments to read, a description of some of the community that has really made a lot of progress. And then make time in your life to foster that type of the connections with people who matter to you. You are one of the, architects of this community in your life. And you can participate in building a tribe, which you belong to. Thank you for stopping around.